A very good morning to one and all present here. A warm welcome to the webinar Wednesday series by Sales and Profit. My name is Yash Agarwal. I am the Deputy Manager of Business Development at Sales and Profit, and I'll be your host for today's session. I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to attend this webinar. A lot of you might have attended our previous webinars, and I believe that we have many new participants today attending our webinar for the very first time. Before I introduce the speaker for today, I would like to give a brief background about what Sales and Profit is all about. We are a B2B focused sales performance improvement company, and we are in the business of improving sales KPIs and sales metrics for our customers. We help our clients improve their sales performance through our sales focused services from the suspect to the order journey. And how do we do that? We have three business units to take care of these metrics. The first one being sales consulting. We improve the overall organizational design, such as how many sales professionals should be present in one region, what should the incentive structure be, what should be the right hierarchy. Talking about a second service, which is sales enablement. We enable your sales team on their KPIs with customized training programs, which consist of a copyrighted methodologies and frameworks to upskill them. Sales recruitment, the third service that we have. We specialize in hiring mid to senior sales roles for tech and telecom organizations. We help fulfill urgent sales roles by hiring faster with better sales talent. We have been grateful to add value to the following clients. If you want to learn more about us and the work we have been doing in B2B sales, feel free to visit our website, salesprofit.in. Now, I would like to share why we decided to start the webinar Wednesday series. As an organization, we believe sharing knowledge with the sales community is always the right way to move forward, as we want our fellow sales colleagues to learn and grow together. Before we start this webinar, I would like to share a few house rules. The first one being this session will be recorded and will also be streamed on our LinkedIn page. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and all of us will be on mute during the entire session. Also, feel free to use the chat box to shoot any questions you have, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible. When leaving the webinar, you'll also get a short feedback survey. We would request your participation in this survey, as your feedback will help us improve our upcoming webinars. Talking about Mr. Vasudev Murthy, who's our speaker for today, I would like to give a brief background about him. Vasudev is a management consultant and a leadership coach with over 25 years of experience. He's an executive director in the School of Entrepreneurship at Rishihood University. He was also a former chairperson of Association of Proposal Management Professions, India. He's also the author of several books like Effective Proposal Writing and How Organizations Really Work. So without any delay, now I would like to ask Vasudev to give us some insights on writing effective proposals. The stage is all yours, Vasudev. Please take it ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Let me first of all thank all of you for taking the time to attend, and thank you, Yash and Murthy, for this. This is in the next 45 minutes or so. I'd like to give you about a handful, maybe a dozen, in pointers as to why it happens that we lose out on submitting proposals. My assumption here is everyone who's attending this webinar has an interest in the proposal writing business, so to say. You write proposals or somehow you receive proposals. Both of them are important. So how do you evaluate them, and how do you actually write proposals that ultimately you don't feel bad that it wasn't accepted? In fact, yesterday someone wrote to me saying that I want to make sure that I win before I even submit the proposal. Sometimes it's not that easy, and we have to think a little bit about what it means. But let me give you a bit of data. Yes, I'm assuming that you can hear my voice clearly. Is that right?
Yes, Vasudev, okay. I can.
Fine. So these are a couple of things. To me, these numbers are very good. Good in the sense that I feel they're exaggerated. The data I have says that the RFP, the response to the average RFP is about 44%. So when we receive RFPs, only about 44% of the responses actually are accepted. Now, in my opinion, this is a very high number. I think the real data is more like maybe 15% or something like that. But okay, this is what the data is showing. And generally speaking, people believe that a 40% win-loss ratio is considered good performance in general. And this is before you actually know what to put in the proposal. So when you add the ingredients, the masala, if I may say so, in the proposal, My view is that it's likely to actually go up to good 70-80%. But let's talk about that. This is a very vast subject, and we're trying to actually compress everything in a very short amount of time. In fact, I suspect there'll be more questions you have after the webinar than during the webinar, which is good, which means you're now thinking about these kind of subjects. Okay, yeah. Can I have the next slide, please? So we'll take a poll right away. Okay, there's going to be, I think one of my colleagues is going to be sending out a poll. What is the win ratio of a proposal? So I'd like to interpret this for you. So 11 to 25%, meaning that out of 100 proposals, you probably end up winning 11 to 25% of them, which means you lose 75 to 75%. So let's take a look at what's happened. And you can see the results coming up right here.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Thank you,
interesting.
Vasu. Request all of you to participate, as the polls would be open only for 30 seconds, and post that we would also be sharing the answers. Thank you, guys.
Okay, we need some more responses. I think maybe 32 have responded, so others are requested to respond.
Yeah, so we have 46% who have said that it takes about 11% to 25%.
Yeah.
And the
For those
rest,
who have come in late, some people have just joined. Just informing that we're just taking the pulse of the audience and asking, what is the win ratio of a proposal? That is, for every 100 proposals that you submit, how many of them get accepted? That's what we're trying to do. You're welcome to join right away and express your opinion. Okay, so we have 37 out of 37. Okay, so you can see from this data that the news is not so good. It's about 46% of new sales and about 25%, which is what I suspected. It's normally only when you lose 75% of the opportunities that you submit proposals for. And that data, by the way, should upset you, should frighten you, or should make you feel very concerned as to what's going on. Yes, Bhupesh, we can get a recording of the webinar. Someone's asking for this. Okay, so now that you have an idea of how much we're losing by just not taking care of certain fundamental things in the proposal that you could very easily do. So let's get into some details of what this translates into. So can we move on to the next, please? Yeah. So first, I want to again sensitize you. Let me close this poll. Read this poll. Yeah. Okay. So the first thing, of course, we need to think about, which actually a lot of people don't think about, is how the amount of time you prepare in assembling proposals. Typically, in an organization, so many people from various departments get together to write the proposal. Someone from the sales team, someone from the pre-sales team, someone from the legal team, someone from the marketing team, a whole bunch of people. And of course, I forgot the subject matter experts, so they also have to be involved. So it's a very large number of people who are getting involved. And therefore, if you just say that everyone spends at least a day, if not more, on an average proposal, the numbers start adding up, significantly. It's a lot of time that is actually, being spent, and therefore, if time is equal to money, you need to calculate how much money is being lost. Okay, and how does it go? First of all, everyone has to read the RFP, and actually, in practice, not many people do that. A lot of people read only the sections that they think are relevant to them, right? And that is actually, if you ask me, a bit of a mistake, but that is what people, take shortcuts and do. Then there has to be someone who puts the whole proposal together, right? And that itself is running after people to find out who's that you were supposed to submit this particular section, you're supposed to do that particular section, you haven't done that yet. So it's a lot of coordination that happens. And then we have to review the content, and that is a very significant problem, because a lot of people actually submit without proper reviews, and I'm going to be talking about that fairly soon. Then the amount of time spent in the actual submission process, which can also take time. Sometimes you have to submit, by email, or sometimes you actually go in person or courier it, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you have to follow up with the proposal with an actual presentation of what the proposal is all about. So when you add all these numbers, whether it's a small proposal or it's a very large one, we're talking about a lot of time and it's equal to money, being spent just because you haven't taken the time to understand that the proposal is a very important document which has a proper framework. And if you learn how to deal with that framework, chances of success, so instead of 11 to 25% success, you probably can get as much as 75 to 80%. You just have to take a little bit of trouble. Okay. This is again the point below here, number of people, infrastructure, travel. I'm just sensitizing you to all the hidden costs, right? One is the obvious cost. So you actually, spend money, but other things like the salaries of people involved and so on is significantly high. So please be aware. This is a significant thing. You shouldn't just feel it's trivial. It is not. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start now with some more one more poll. Okay. Uh, yeah. So Kaustav, I will take all your questions towards the end if you don't mind. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, you're all welcome to put your questions there. I will get back to you. So how much time does it take for you to create a proposal? So even though if you ask me, the poll is very modest. It actually sometimes takes days and weeks, but nevertheless, let's find out. Yeah, good poll. Please go ahead.
Yeah, again, this poll will be open for 30 seconds and request all of you guys to participate. Thank you.
Okay, interesting stuff. Okay, we're getting some good numbers here. Okay, so we're seeing over here that a lot of people are obviously talking about more than 8 hours, which in fact is correct. If you ask me, we shouldn't have been talking about hours. We should have been talking about days. That was probably a minor error here. But it does take a tremendous amount of time to create a proposal. It's not just a matter of putting in fancy English. It's much more than that. So again, the intent of this poll was to sensitize you about to the fact that we spend money, I'm sorry, time unnecessarily on proposals which are probably doomed to fail. They are going to fail because you haven't done certain things. So what are those things? That's what I'm going to be talking about in just a moment. Yeah. Next, please. Yes, please remind me how the time is. What the time is. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is a particular favorite of mine, which is a clumsy executive summaries. Okay. Uh, so one incorrect inference that people make about executive summaries is that it's a summary. I want to again repeat this point because it's an important point. An executive summary is not a summary of the proposal in the sense of there are 80 pages and we just go to summarize and just take the 10 main points of the proposal. It's actually not that. It is addressed to the guy who writes the check, the person who's going to sign off, the person who is going to say yes, let's go ahead with the proposal, and typically that person is a business individual. It may not even be the person who is going to be responsible for actually rolling out whatever, it may be an IT kind of implementation. That's all good. But the person who signs it is going to look at, who signs the check is going to look at the proposal in a different way. So he needs to make sure that these folks have actually understood the business drivers behind. Have they addressed the concerns? Have they really taken the trouble to understand our problem? Now, one of the common mistakes people make is that we've seen this kind of RFP before and we know how to solve it because we've done it 10 times before. I would suggest that we shouldn't think like that, even though you may be right. Every person who generates an RFP believes that their problem is unique. And therefore, if you try to pretend that it's all a template-based activity, you are definitely going to get into trouble. So it's the issue here. So the second point here is it should address the needs of the decision maker. The decision maker has certain other kinds of consideration. How much will it cost? What's the warranty? What's the how long does this? What kind of a process do we have? Who are going to be the people? They may or may not. They may or may not be actually technical people. That's important to understand. Now, what I've seen in executive summaries is people think it's a place to put in your marketing brochure. Suppose so we think, oh, we are such a fantastic company. We have 2,000 people. We have offices in Dubai, Tokyo, London, New York. Those things are actually not relevant. Okay, it will be relevant for somebody else, but here we're saying that we have understood the problem this problem that you have is causing you this kind of pain, this kind of challenge, and we believe that we can solve it in this particular way. So it's the level of writing, the level of conversation is much higher. So the person writing the executive summary should actually be someone who has a very sophisticated grasp of executive language. Okay. And it has to be crisp. It should not exceed more than 2 or 3 pages. We have seen executive summaries that go into 20, 30 pages, which has no meaning whatsoever because it doesn't make any sense at all. So please take care that you think about this. The other point about the executive summary as an additional tip I want to say is a common mistake that people make is they think that executive summary should be written at the end. Okay, because you think, okay, I've done everything, now let me summarize. That's not the case at all. In fact, it is a salesperson. The salesperson, I'm guessing many of you here are actually from the sales area. The sales folks are those who should write the first draft of what the customer is looking for, because they're the closest to the customer. They know why the RFP has been issued, right? Therefore, they should put in the 5 or 6 points, and that's a living document. It can change, but you should never forget those first 4 or 5 bullet points, no matter how clumsily they have been written. That is the starting point for building up a much more sophisticated executive summary, because that's from those points, the rest of the proposal actually start opening up. I hope that makes us making sense, right? So I've written a white paper on the importance of an executive summary, which I'd be very happy to share with you. I would like you all to raise your hand. Okay, and my friends here will make a note. Raise your hand, and you will get a white paper on the importance of executive summary by email. Okay, so please take a moment to do that. Yeah, and yes, sure. If anybody else will be glad to email this to you.
Yeah, that will be done, Vasu.
Okay, done. Yes, Sandhya, please raise your hand. I mean, there must be something over there. Okay, so okay, may I continue? Yeah, yeah, sure. So we will take care of it. Don't worry. Probably within an hour after this is over, someone will send it to you. So I hope my point about the executive summary made sense. Please take it as an extremely serious document to write, because that is the first impression which will create interest. These guys have thought about our business problem. It's not just the technical issue which we have talked about. It's what's behind the RFP. Okay, let's take a look at the next. Okay, why proposals lose out is because of compliance. This essentially means that you have not looked at the RFP in great detail, because normally the person who's issuing the RFP, which is a request for proposal, talks a lot about we want it in this particular format, we want you to tell us 10 things, we want you to give 4 references, we want you to submit it on a particular date at a particular time. That's what's compliance. And no matter how silly it is, it has to be done. You have to do it according to that. So, for example, if they ask for 4 responses, 4 references, and you give 2, you are not being responsive. You have to literally do it. If they want it in a particular font, particular double space, triple space, print only on one page, no matter how ridiculous it is, you have to comply with the whole issue of how they want it. Okay, all right. So yeah, go ahead, Costa. You're welcome to do so. But I will continue with this discussion for a moment. So my suggestion for that is that you have to have a neutral person with a reputation for being very, very critical, who goes to the RFP. Literally, like, I'll just show this to you. Suppose this is the RFP, and you look line by line that has this been covered, has this been taken care of. So that's the kind of thing you want to do. But I think what happens typically, people who write proposals over a period of time, they stagnate and they become overconfident about how good they are at responding to RFPs, and you have to be very careful about it. Okay. Yeah. Can I move on to the next, please? So this is the second point. Third. Okay. Third, again, skipping details. And I'll tell you the reason why this often happens. So sometimes, you feel that the RFP is irrelevant. Some things are irrelevant, and because you have no answer, there is no need to say anything. So, and I've given some examples here. You may see that they want an ERP implementation, right? And in the RFP it says, okay, this is why we want the ERP implementation. But they also say in your response, tell us about your DEI strategy, which is diversity and so on, right? And you may think, what's the point? We're talking about a technical issue. So it's okay. We can skip this. And the more important part is the technical part of this. And that's, again, a great mistake. So you have to be really careful. Don't try to be too clever and think that, I know the guy who issued the RFP. I know him personally. We had lunch together. So therefore, it doesn't matter. He will ignore this. So never be overconfident about these matters. please. Okay, because the person evaluating the RFP, he may be your friend, but typically for audit purposes, they will have a number of other people, who will be involved in evaluating it, and you can't assume these things at all. So better if you have no response, at least say no response at this stage, or we don't have a response, or something like that. Don't skip it under any circumstances. Next, please. Okay. Now, this is an important question for the as a prelude to the next slide, right? So we receive an RFP. Here comes a lovely RFP by email or by this thing, and we immediately start responding to it because we are very excited about it. And it's very important to find out why have they asked for that. So, for example, again, I'll go back to ERP example. Someone says we want an ERP. Okay. So you may ask one question. Okay, why do you want it? That's the first level question. They may say that we want to replace it, and you might be satisfied with the answer, but that answer is not enough. That's what we're trying to say. We might have to go deeper into why they want it. Now, in the hurry to respond, because you say, "Wow, what a golden opportunity," you say, this is our ERP. It's just fantastic, and it can handle this load, and we have all these technical support. But that's not what it is. Anyway, so I'm noticing a good response here, which is very good. I have almost 75% of you ask for that. So that's a very encouraging sign. Very nice. Okay. Because if you don't ask this question, then it will not be reflected adequately in the executive summary, which is a very, it's a clinching kind of a document, if you get my point. Okay. Are we done with this poll? Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yes.
So this is an important exercise to do, and if people are not doing it, please make sure that you engage with this. Okay. Next, please. Can you move on? Okay. Okay, this is again an extension of the previous poll. It is the ability to keep asking why. Now, here, this is why we oftentimes in the sales role or in the pre-sales role, we have to develop a certain kind of business acumen or communications ability. So keep asking, why, keep asking why, till there's no further why to be asked. Okay, going back to the example, you want to, if you're satisfied with the answer that we want to replace an old ERP, well, the question is why? What is wrong with the old ERP? If it's functioning well, why do you bother? Then they will explain more. The warranties run out, or it's not able to take the load, and then you have to ask the question, what is the load, and why do you anticipate that the load will be increasing? So those are the next level questions that we do. For example, when I do my other kinds of training programs, I always ask, why do you need this program? If you didn't have this training program, what would happen? So these are things to be thought of. Okay. So again, it needs a certain acumen, the ability to engage with people, form connections, develop a chemistry, so that you're able to ask this freely and easily. It's an important thing to be asking, and don't just spontaneously have a knee-jerk response, a knee-jerk proposal to their RFP. Again, RFP, for those of you who don't know, is the request for proposal. Okay, in case some of you don't know. Next, please. Okay, now we come to the next question, and this is important for important. Let's first ask the question. Do you ask we had a response rate of 25% in the original poll, right? We said 25% win. So which means that 75% of the time you don't win. So the question is, do you actually ask them, why did my proposal lose? That's do you actually have the courage, you have the guts, is that a process that you have to ask? And there's an important reason for this. Go ahead. Is a poll there? Yes?
Yeah, coming right up.
Okay. Are you having some challenge?
Yeah, so I think that poll is not able to launch. I think people can use
Okay.
the chat box.
Yeah, they can use the chat box. That's a good idea. So please go ahead and do this. Just indicate in the chat box whether you actually ask the prospect. And yeah, so good. Many of you are saying yes, and that's a very good thing to know. Obviously, if the reason why you do this is, you may say that you already lost the proposal, the opportunity. So why bother? Okay, I'm seeing some interesting responses out there. So you may ask, and they don't tell you. But the point is, if they do tell you, it actually helps you, because the next time around, you have a better view of the next time you submit a proposal to them or to somebody else. You have good feedback at this stage to say that, either you are priced too high, or your solution was not detailed enough. your references, or whatever it is. There was some reason which you didn't realize was what was the decider, or maybe your competition was better and gave a better kind of timetable for implementation. It has happened. It has happened to me personally as well. I remember one particular case where I lost something. I had submitted something for a leadership program, and after a lot of things, I didn't happen. So I asked what happened, and they said that we decided that we needed somebody who was in Delhi, and I was in Bangalore at that time. They said we decided we want to have it in Delhi because of XYZ reason. So it's helpful. So the next time around, we're in a better position to address those kinds of concerns. Okay, good. Thanks for this. Next, please. Okay. Now this is a very dicey and sensitive kind of a reason, which is ignoring the existence of competitors. Now, so the thing is that according to our good manners, assuming we all have good manners, we think our particular proposal should win on its own merits because we are so good, we're so cool. We've done this work before. Our references are impeccable. Our pricing is great. The Gantt chart is fantastic. We really know this technology or whatever the case is. So you think the proposal should stand on its own and it should win. But in fact, everybody else does the same thing. Now, what I'm talking about here is you can't ignore the existing competitors because you have to, and this is I would even call it a psychological method. You have to put the seed of doubt in the mind of the reviewer by certain things that you put in the proposal. Okay? And I would like to give you a simple example of what I'm talking about. Let's say that the RFP is about setting up a disaster recovery center. Okay? The disaster recovery center, so maybe you're all experts. There are 4 or 5 of you who are competing for the disaster recovery service opportunity, and you know that so and so, one of the competitors, has the disaster recovery center in a unstable, geologically unstable place. This is just a hypothetical example. So maybe they have it in a place which is prone to earthquakes. Okay, prone to earthquake. Now, they may not tell you that. That competitor may not tell the client that. But what you might say is that we have our data centers in places which are known to be geologically sound and sturdy, etc. Now, what that does is essentially raises a question for the evaluator to think of when they're looking at other kinds of other proposals, because that's a new thing you have, and then as a result of that, it will act as a kind of a new way to put the other competitors in a slightly different light. I just gave you an example. I don't know if that's the best example, but what I'm trying to tell you is you have to preempt the competitors. Everyone's talking about how cool they are. Now, obviously, we are all not perfect, and it is important for you to, without naming them, do not name them and do not say that Alpha Technologies has a heavy turnover of people. They've had some security issues. They've had bad references. You don't talk like that. We don't say that, but you can put it in a different way without actually naming them. That we have high let's say we've been audited for the highest best HR practices, things like that, which that when the evaluator looks at it, they may say, "Wow, okay, that's a new twist to this. I didn't realize. I should probably look at it and look at the other proposals in a similar light." So ignoring your competitors is a very bad mistake. Now, how you do this is a lot of wordplay and care on how to do this without coming across as somebody silly. Okay, next please. Yeah. Now, this is a very important thing, and nobody ever gets this right, and I won't call this trivial, it's very important, casual writing. Okay. And this comes from a number of different places, because people say, the proposal should stand on its own. Why are we so hung up about language? Why should we care? What they want is, kitna lagega, how much money, and when will you do it? But it's not like that at all. Impressions matter, and the value perception matters. And I'll come to value perception in just a moment. So we see this in many proposals. Poor grammar and spelling, thinking that it doesn't matter. Okay, it matters. Poor structure. Okay, use of slang. Okay, casual words like which we might use in our WhatsApp and SMSs. We use this kind of stuff. Lack of control over cut and paste. That is a huge issue, because proposals, as I mentioned to you many times, proposal writers become overconfident over a period of time. Because what happens is they may win 1 or 2 proposals, and then they carry forward that wisdom. Now I've cracked the code. Okay. Yes, Rahul Kumar, you're absolutely correct. So Rahul has mentioned that language and grammar makes an impression on one's brand. That's absolutely right. So I'm going to be talking about that. So you may think I'm repeating this point that language, it's okay, but it's not such a big deal because people are concerned with pricing. Okay, kitne ka hai, and how we're going to do it. Unfortunately, the proposal is going to be led by a large number of people. Okay, and they may say that even though you're such a cool guy, but if you're so sloppy, if you haven't taken the time to review your language and make it acceptable, then how can we be so sure of the quality of your actual deliverable, right? And it creates basically, as somebody said, a value perception because good language does matter, and it says that okay, these people care for it. Okay, so and here is one issue here. You see, when proposals are written, in my opinion, a lot of proposals, how people get into the proposal writing business oftentimes is an accident. The person might be the only person sitting in a canteen and having chai, and they said, "Are you free?" They said, "Yeah, I'm free." Chalo, let's write a proposal. So as a result of this casual lack of training of the proposal writer, we see a lot of poor, usage in the actual proposal creation. So they don't know what are best practices. They don't understand the value of these languages, and by extension, we don't understand the value of a professional editor. I want to make a point that the editor's job is not just to fix typos. We often think editor's job is to find a comma, find a spelling mistake, but that's not true. The editor actually is responsible much more. So you actually should have a full-time editor. I'm talking about in the ideal case, who knows how to structure things, who can tell you, let us not put in this sentence, let us add one more sentence. So that person is a kind of a guide. So it's not just, you just don't give it to somebody else. You meet some, again, go back to the canteen and say, Gaurav or Rajiv, whoever it is, chalo, yaar, why don't you just edit my work for me? That is a very wrong approach to have. You must look at editors because it makes a difference. And this example that I'm showing you on this slide shows you how, what formal languages and what informal languages is. So you have to take a lot of care. You must use what is called active voice. If you don't know what that is, please check on it. You must try to use active voice versus passive voice. These are things that are really truly important. And remember, everyone in the organization represents that brand at that moment. So if you are sloppy in what you do, you may belong to the most unbelievably impressive company in the world. But if your language is not good enough, it immediately puts an impression on the rest of the organization. So it's something to really think about. Okay, yeah. And you might say it's a subjective matter. How does it really matter? Unfortunately, it does matter. I'm sorry to say. Next, please. Yeah. So now let's look at one more angle to this. Okay, whether you have a fully committed graphics team, graphics and editorial team.
Request everybody to participate in this.
Participate. Yeah. One is graphics. The other one is editorial. These are different. Yeah. So please be very clear. Okay. Getting some good responses. Okay. Are we set? Yes.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
44 participants.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're seeing that 62% of you say you don't have graphic or editorial team, and you may have one and not the other. Someone mentioned we have graphics but no editorial. That's okay. The point is, we're just sensitizing you to all the things that are required. So if you say, let me download something from Google and just put in the proposal, well, that's your choice. But frankly, sometimes businesses do need to invest in a person specifically for this. Okay. Yeah. So Rahul Kumar, that's exactly a lot of people. We just borrow people from marketing and for proposal writing. But this is not the point here. Sometimes what I often say is, if you can't sketch or draw the problem, and if you can't sketch and draw the solution, then you don't understand the problem or you don't understand the solution. It's a lot of wordplay. You're just dealing with words. So I think our ability to put across a graphic or good graphics which convey our understanding of the issue, we cannot underestimate its value. So we really have to take a lot of thought about this. Because again, you just borrow someone. Again, I like the example of going to a canteen and finding some guy having chai and samosas and say, you're a good guy at graphics. Come and do for graphics first. This actually happens. And we must really take care that we don't allow this kind of casual approach to graphics. And we already talked about editorial, but graphics makes a difference. The whole issue of colors, the sophistication of how we perceive colors, how we perceive shapes, shades. It is a subject that many of us don't know. It's better we accept we don't know certain things, and let's invest in a graphics person who can create the graphic, because aesthetics matter in the way a proposal comes across. Okay, next is yes. This is what I'm talking about here. As in this particular slide, we are talking about how, if you don't understand these things, you see here, texture, space, all these things have a psychological impact on the reader. Okay, they may deny it, but it does. Okay, one of course is how these issues of colors, font design, etc. There's a lot of research that has gone into it, and it has been proved that it actually makes a difference. No one will admit it because people will say, we are very objective about things, but in fact, colors, shapes, etc., play on our emotional side of all of us, and therefore it does actually matter. Okay, and as I mentioned to you, they cut across language barriers and tell the reader about the logic of the solution. For example, some of you may have submitted proposals to, let's say, Japanese or Chinese clients, right? For them, English, you might have a PhD in English, but if you can't understand what's happening, if they can't understand, then they will be intimidated by the proposal, will reject it because they don't understand what you're trying to do. And that's why I mentioned over here that they cut across language barriers. You must make that effort. So again, just a time pass kind of a graphics guy who comes in and does everything possible, goes on the website and does your proposal. If you have the possibility or the luxury, if you can demand such a person exclusively for your proposal writing team, invest in that person, let him create a library of icons, banners, all these kinds of graphics, then you can reuse them from a knowledge management perspective. But of course, I also am realistic. I understand not all organizations have that kind of bandwidth or depth to be able to afford all these kinds of people. Nevertheless, what we're talking about in this presentation are good practices in the ideal case, what needs to be done. Okay, so please invest in graphics. It to demonstrate the understanding of the problem and the proposed solution. Because if you can't do it, then words alone is not going to win you, or rather, it doesn't give you any advantage. Go ahead, please. Thanks. Next. And the continuation of the previous thing, we have this habit of very large paragraphs. I have some books with me in which the entire page is actually just one paragraph or two pages, just continuous text. Now we have a lot of studies that show that people don't enjoy that. It difficulties for the eyes, and therefore, if you read these thick novels, let's say by Ayn Rand or whoever these people are who write these huge novels, many of us, and I have certainly watched myself, if I come across a large paragraph, I read the first line, maybe the second line at most, and I skip to the very last line because I'm assuming that everything in the middle I kind of get to summarize this. But unfortunately, some very critical point might actually be embedded in the middle of that heavy text. And because you have not taken the trouble of cutting your sentences and creating smaller paragraphs, having multiple lines, etc. Yeah, I'll talk about fog index in just a minute. Please give me a moment. So when all these things happen, then again it becomes a poor reading experience. The way you should think about reading, right? Or let's put it like, and I'm talking about fog index right now. In fact, the proposal is actually not about the writer at all. It is about the reader. It's not about how you write. It's of course important, and we talked about it, grammar, spelling, all this important. But how does the reader assimilate the information? That is really important, right? So they are not going to be impressed by sophisticated language. And therefore, if a reader, while reading the proposal, pauses, stops because they didn't understand what you have said, trust me, that's a moment of truth, which means that they are most likely going to already feel intimidated. We don't know what's happening over here. So you may think this is an exaggeration, but trust me, it's not an exaggeration. So the issue here is of how do you simplify you're writing so that it can be read and assimilated better. Okay, and also have small paragraphs, not exceeding 3 or 4 lines as far as possible. Have small sentences. Okay, one tip that I can give you is, and this is an unusual tip, is to measure the reading of a sentence with how the amount of time you take to inhale or to exhale. If, and this is of course a non-standard, unscientific thing you might say, but actually it makes a difference. If you're reading a sentence and if the sentence goes on and on and on with commas, semicolons, parentheses, etc., etc., you've gone through several reading rounds, and you're nowhere close to understanding what's happening. So try to cut it, try to cut the sentences after, let's say, 8 to 9 words to the extent you can. And ultimately, it will be easier reading experience, which will again raise the possibility that the proposal will be read. I mean, if they don't read the proposal, and if you're giving them so many reasons to reject it, some objective, some subjective, then you're definitely in trouble. Now let's go to the question of the fog index. Okay, the fog index is which we demonstrated in just a minute by my friends here, is simply what's called it's called a readability index. Okay, when you say fog, which is of course Kohara, for example. Let me ask Yash. Yash, when I say fog, when I say something is foggy, what does that vision say to you?
Lack of vision, I can't see what is there on the other side.
Exactly, it's lack of clarity. We have no idea. So if I therefore say, let me just take one of our participants here. That would be better for you to do. I'll just take someone's name, Mr. Let's say Rahul Kumar. I'll just take Rahul Kumar. So you can answer, sir. So if I say, Rahul, your writing is very foggy, do you think that's a compliment? Okay, I'm not sure where he went away. Did he leave? Okay, I'm not sure where he went. So the point here is, if I say the same thing to Yash, so you're here, I can directly talk about it. So if I tell you, Yash, that your writing is very foggy, is that a compliment? Yeah, it's
Not
not a
at all.
compliment.
Not at all.
Not at all. So therefore, all that fantastic English and multi-syllable words that you have used is totally wasted because the person doesn't get it. So the fog index, what the fog index does, which we will show you in just a second, is tell you upfront that how readable your writing is. Okay. So if the fog index is high, that means it's not readable. And what it actually says is the index is nothing but the years of education required to comprehend that text. And I'll repeat it: the years of education required to comprehend that text. So if it is 24 or 35, sometimes it happens. You're essentially saying he needs 24 or 35 years of education to understand what has been written, which is a very silly thing to be doing. So should it be 2 or 3? No. The ideal answer according to me is 8 or 9. Let's do an exercise just to make this point. So Yash or Murtaza, if you're there, please could you do it?
Sure.
Are you demonstrating? Yeah. So here is an example. Please all of you make a note of the URL. Yeah, Shashi Thurur Fog Index. Yes, Suresh, that's correct. Yeah. So you see what we have here in this website is a white space. You can copy your text, one that you're really proud of, and put it there, and then calculate it. So now what's going to happen is, I think Shash has put something, and here we have a fog index of 19.12. So you may think it's an incredible compliment, and you're the greatest writer, but actually you're not. But the lucky thing of this tools like this is just one example of a fog index tool. There are many other tools you should check yourself. It gives you examples of where you can make things easier to read. For example, and I've already told you this before, you can cut the length of your sentences. You can try to avoid using acronyms, which is a dicey thing to do. You can also, yeah, I think Gunning was the inventor. I would say, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, and also what you need to do is work hard on using simpler words instead of using multi-syllable words. If you use words like it's a multi-syllable, then basically it takes every microsecond extra effort to comprehend that word and to interpret it and so on. So try your best. In fact, the sign of a good writer is the ability to write in a simple way. Not easy, but that's actually what it is. You must make a best. So this kind of tool will help you to take your proposal content, put it through this tool. In fact, even Word has that tool, which nobody uses that incidentally. I could also, I've shown it to you on Word, but here I'm showing it to you on this online tool. Word also has the fog index, which no one uses. And so right there while you're writing the proposal, you can take its help and it will tell you, cut this sentence or use a better word or do something else. And we reduce it from 19 to 17 to 15 to 12 to 11 to 8 or 9. My personal recommendation is aim for 8 or 9. Then there's very little chance that that there'll be any confusion. Okay, avoid acronyms, avoid too many commas, avoid um, uh, what I call acronyms. So you should do all these kinds of things. Next, please. I hope that made sense to all of you. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So this is again the hallmark of an overconfident proposal writer team. Okay. We said that we don't have proper reviews. Now the whole issue of reviews is there are many types of reviews which we don't have time to discuss. But in principle, at the core of this is having review. You must have it reviewed. You all of you, 10 or 15, if you come together and write a huge proposal worth millions of dollars, and if you don't review it, you will have all kinds of issues. So let me give you two simple issues that come up during reviews. Okay, one is when you do copy pasting. Sometimes it's a very well known thing. You use the name of the previous proposal's target. For example, let's say you're writing a proposal for Cisco, and you're borrowing content for a proposal that you had made to Microsoft, similar proposal. So in your overconfidence, when you cut and paste it over there, then Microsoft comes across in the proposal to be submitted to Cisco. Now that's a very trivial example, but I'm sure you have better examples to share. You have to be really careful about this. And sometimes one of the most common things that we have seen is sometimes you mention your company in multiple places. Okay, for whatever reason. So you might in one place you might say, my company has 2,000 employees and it has 6 offices. Now, a different part of the proposal says we have 2,500 employees and we have 8 offices. So these kinds of issues can come up if you're not doing a review. It sounds trivial, but people notice these kinds of things. Okay, and there may be many other things, but basically, the review mechanism has to be done very, very strictly. It's worth it. Otherwise, if you say, we have seen this proposal before, it's make a rakha, you just go ahead and send it. Well, then afterwards, you have enough time for regret. And then what happens is they blame the sales guy. The sales guy didn't sell this opportunity very well. But that's because the proposal had all these flaws and didn't pass reviews, which is why this is what happened. Okay, next please. And I have a few tools here. I'll just leave it for your reference. Okay, simple stuff. Okay, on the right hand side we have the gunning fog index, which we just talked about. These other kinds of tools that RFPIO, which looks at an RFP and already starts constructing what the proposal ought to be looking like. So it's an automation tool, which I think is a very, very sophisticated tool, or similarly with these other ones. And those of you on the left who have started using AI, you should use it, for good things like Chat GPT, and you should embrace it. I think running away and claiming that AI is bad for you, Chat GPT is bad for you is a serious mistake. So if the worry is that Chat GPT will replace you as a proposal writer, I think that's a misplaced fear. You should actually be using it for these kinds of things. So use Quillbot, use Midjourney, and improve your language, graphic skills, and all these kinds of things. You should use these AI tools. It will make it efficient and actually better. Now, on a separate note, which I haven't mentioned over here, probably I should have, is you should in your community or town have a collection, a formal chapter of proposal writers. Okay, as I mentioned to you, there's an organization called APMP, which is a worldwide organization where we talk about best practices of proposal writing. It's actually a very big thing, and you have multiple certifications. You have foundation level certification, you have a practitioner level, and you have a professional level, and that also helps you from a career perspective. It actually helps you from a career perspective because the question is, how long will I keep writing proposals? Yeah, yeah. Well, you have to enhance your. We have to enhance many things as you write proposals, your ability to negotiate with the finance team, negotiate with the marketing team, the ability to bring people together because people like working with you. Those are additional points of it, it's to make you successful. So you have to take all these things and upgrade yourself constantly and become part of a vibrant team of members, and then you can share best practices of what has worked, what has not worked when you submit proposals, right? And sometimes, as some of you know, okay, sometimes an organization gets carried away and wants to respond to every single RFP they receive because wow, it's an opportunity. Let's do it. Let's respond. Let's respond. But in fact, some there's wisdom also in saying let's not respond. But having said that, I also know that both the sales and the pre-sales folks often don't have the authority to take the decision. And if a CEO or someone says we must respond to this, even though you know that we're probably going to lose, you're still going to respond. But still, as a point of reference, it is not a great idea to constantly respond to every RFP. And I will give you an example of this. It just happened to me 2 weeks ago. So someone wanted me to do this major leadership development program. Okay, and I explained I explained on the phone like a Zoom that we will probably be doing these kinds of things. So they said, "Great, it sounds fantastic. Can you please submit a proposal?" And I told them, "Look, I will, but first be aware it is going to be an expensive program because there's a lot of work involved here. Okay, so if you say that my budget is, oh, we're just trying it out, etc., then let's not even proceed." So that was a good thing I did that because as it turned out, their budget was practically nothing. They almost wanted me to do it free or a small amount of money. So then it's better to step away rather than wasting money and time over these things. However, so therefore, when you lose out because you have not understood the customer well. So that's another reason why you lose an opportunity. Is you have not taken the time to understand that they don't even have a budget. They're just fishing. Many times clients actually do that. They just go from place to place hunting for solutions. I once remember an event when someone from Hong Kong had come to visit us, and we spent enormous amount of time, 2 days, 3 days, whining, dining, ye karenge, wo karenge. It was fantastic. But then they went back to Hong Kong, and then they came back to us and said that after meeting a number of vendors, we have decided to do it on our own. Okay, which means they took the solution approach from everyone and they went and did it on their own. Well, you have seen such examples of this yourself. I have no doubt about it. But I'm just saying, please do some due diligence. Take care. But don't do these. Don't jump into creating proposals which you're definitely going to lose. So take care with that. And with that, I will just come to a close of my presentation. That's my thank you slide. And yes, if you can take some of the questions which have been asked, and I will just not all of them. Please exercise your judgment. Take a few, and I will try to answer. And that's my number there. You can always get in touch with me by WhatsApp or email or whatever.
Sure. Thank you, Vasu. So we request everybody to share their questions over the chat. We have one question, Vasu, from Mr. Cosmo Partiger. It was,
Yeah.
what about proposals which are not response to RFP, but more for management consulting, which is around business objectives?
Yeah. So yes, these are what we call unsolicited proposals. So they have actually not asked for a proposal, but you have seen this. Now you will submit it in two situations. One situation is where you're already embedded in that particular organization doing some other work. Okay. So I remember we were doing work with a particular Texas Instruments specifically. This was many years ago. We were already doing some work there, and then we saw an opportunity, and then we said, why don't we, submit a proposal? So the dynamics are different there, but still valid. All these points, every proposal must be, even assuming there was no RFP for that, which is what you're trying to say, you still must look at all these things, other things very carefully. For example, language, the kinds of things you're saying, all those things are a given. The other kind, which is of course proactively submitting a proposal to a client who has not asked for the proposal. That oftentimes is obviously risky itself. But again, it happens in management consulting quite often. I agree with you because you might meet somebody, on a plane, and we start talking and we say, I think I'm going to submit a proposal to you. It does happen, but I think the rules we're talking about, if you remove the ones over here which talk about RFP, right? If you remove them, the rest of them are still valid. All of them are absolutely valid. So I think we should not be, in fact, probably for the case of unsolicited proposals, the executive summary in particular has to be extremely intense. It has to be extremely intense because you are asking for somebody's time. So when they open the document, what is this about? The executive summary is in one page, everything's being talked about. Yeah, yeah. So that is example. So Pulin, I get your point. So we will address your question in just a moment. Please go ahead, keep putting the questions here. We'll take about a half dozen of them. So that is an example of that. But nevertheless, proposal discipline, proposal rigor is critical. Don't assume anything. One of the typical things, मैं उसको जानता हूँ. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to be really, you have to discount all your relationships and, I know him, I know her. That's not the point here. We are talking in this thing about a professional setting where we are talking about professional proposal writing, etc., etc. Okay. Next question, yes.
Yeah, Vasu. We have one question from Rennie. Where can you
Yeah.
find an ideal proposal format with executive summary and a general flow of content? If you have a reference proposal, can it be shared?
Well, I do, and I will try to share it, but I also want to make a point. I think the templatized approach is probably not a good idea. Okay, basically what we are saying is we will follow this kind of template and it will actually work. You see, I think that's not a very it's okay if we can do it, and there are many resources. I will dig out one of them. I will go ahead and try to send it to you. But I think there are two things. Number one, every organization has to develop its own template which reflects the way they think. Okay. The second is that sometimes the client themselves determine, say that in the RFP, they say, we want you to follow this format. And that's again an issue of compliance, right? So they say, we want you to tell us like this. We want you to do the numbering in this way. We want you to do this way. So if you try to do your own stunts, then you're in trouble. You should follow their format. But again, going back to, let's say, management consulting and all, they have their own kind of set system of doing that, which reminds me of something very important. That one very bad practice that we all do is we have this section called About Us. Okay, the About Us section invariably, for some reason, tends to be in the beginning. Okay, now what is, or even sometimes about you. We say about you, what we know about you. Now, both of those are time wasting activities for the reader. Okay, the fact that the proposal has come from you means they already probably know about you, and obviously they know about themselves. So if you really want to talk about yourself, I would say you have to first of all get the issue out of the way. What is the solution that you're proposing? Then you can talk about yourself later. Otherwise, what you have managed to do successfully is to waste the person's time and delayed gratification. In the sense, you've delayed their understanding of what you're proposing to do. So please don't do that. Don't talk about us and we're so fantastic, incredible, best manager, best company, all good. But put it at the end or towards the end. Don't put it in the beginning. So in short, yes, some companies have their own templates. I will try to find you one or two references, but those are guides, only guides, and they should not be taken as the way that the proposals are understood, because everyone has a different way of expressing it. Yes, next.
Yes, we'll take a question from Mr. Pulin Shaw. Some proposals
Yeah,
are faceless and focus only on
yeah,
pricing, not the
yeah.
graphic, or
Yes, I
we
know.
can't meet them. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, it is a fact. I mean, and those are obviously transactional kind of a situation. Come and install some tables, or I do something like that. I think you're not talking about those types of proposals here. Yes, they are like that, and they are very transactional. They don't require great business acumen and so on and so forth. But I think what we're talking about in today's session are not necessarily those kinds of things. We're talking about much larger ones involving services or training programs and so on. So if basically what you're saying, we just have a product, off the shelf product, kitna lagega, kharido or whatever. No, I think we are not talking about that over here. But your point is taken. That also happens.
So we'll move ahead with the next question from Mr. Rahul Kumar. Many of
Please,
his clients, smaller ones, prefer to operate through WhatsApp. How do they add value there?
how do we add value then?
Yeah.
Well, they may operate through it, but it doesn't mean that you say, you just have a WhatsApp. You don't send your entire solution by WhatsApp. You can do it if that is the great informality you have here. But trust me on this. See, one thing is that something you all need to understand is that fundamentally a proposal is actually a semi-legal document. It's a legal document, okay? Though of course it doesn't say affidavit, it doesn't use legal stuff. But actually, what's happening is you are representing you are making certain claims. You are saying we have this experience, we are all these fantastic guys. This is our solution. We have all this stuff. Tomorrow, if something goes wrong, right? That's why the importance of a review. If something goes wrong, then you are in serious trouble. And so therefore, if you keep on sending these WhatsApp messages without any kind of review, without any kind of complete discipline in the way you write proposals, then if not today, tomorrow, they may say that, you told us to do this and that's what we have done and look at our fate today. So we will get carried away by the moment and say, wo mera dost hai, just send it to me on WhatsApp. Okay, cool. And you may actually win it as well. But it is ultimately better for over a period of time to take care of this in a formal topic for your own satisfaction, so that tomorrow, if you get into trouble, you have something to defend yourself. Yeah, next please. Can we take two more and then can we stop, Ashish? Yes.
Yeah, sure. We'll just take one more, Vasu, from Kamna Hazrati. What is the
Sure.
ideal length of executive summary? Most of our proposals are sent over the email with proposal PDF.
Yeah. So, well, send it by PDF. My recommendation is executive summary, not more than 2, a maximum of 3, with diagrams, with this. Executive summary must also sometimes have diagrams. There's nothing wrong with it. Give plenty of white space. In fact, I would say, I don't know if you can see this white sheet here. Can you see? Okay. I mean, this is just a paper. Okay, this is an example of a sheet of paper. Please, please try to make it as a 1/3, 2/3 kind of a format for proposals. I think you know what I mean. One column here for blank, and 2/3 here. And this blank area is for what we call callouts. Callouts means certain important things that you want to keep over here, like a quotation, from some great leader or some important point in the executive summary that you must want to make sure that the person reads. Now, ultimately, to answer your question, therefore, you have to have graphics also in the executive summary, and I would recommend to not exceed under any circumstances more than 2, but if if it requires 3. You got to understand, where is this person reading this executive summary? Most of us are multitasking all the time. And, so the guy is waiting for his flight at the airport, okay? And somebody sends him this proposal and says, sir, please take a look at this. So outside the call for the flight is coming, people are rushing around, and you're asking him to read a whole executive summary undisturbed while he's managing 10 other things. And this is a decision maker. This is the life of a decision maker. They're always busy multitasking. So you need to appreciate who's reading it. So therefore, my suggestion to you is do not spend more than 2.5 pages on the executive summary. Get it out of the way. Okay. Can we add this to the proposal? Well, it depends on what you want. I would say it should be part of the proposal. Sometime again, the person who issued the RFP wants the documents to be sent separately. So point taken. But if you're talking about a normal case where the proposal is just one document, the executive summary should be with the document right up. Okay. So with that, I'll say bye to you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure interacting with you, and I hope to be in touch. My number's out there. You can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well as my email or whichever way it works for you. And I'm hoping that you guys will benefit from this. Yes, you're welcome to have. My friends here, Yash and Murtaza, will communicate with you and share with you whatever we have. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, Vasu, for giving us such an informative session. It was really helpful for a sales professional like me. I would also like to thank the audience for their patience and the interactions with the speaker through polls and the questions. So before we end this session, I would just like to announce our next webinar taking place in March. The topic will be related to creating the right ICP and how to target the right prospects. This topic was suggested to us by many of our participants, and we've already done a webinar similar to this topic a couple of years back, and we are improving day by day. But over the years, like I mentioned, we have evolved, and now we are coming up with a much better version of the topic. So to get updates on all our future webinars, do follow our LinkedIn page called Sales and Profit. And if you would like to know more about how we help companies in improving their sales metrics, feel free to visit our website, salesprofit.in. Thank you for your time, everyone. Hope to see you again in the future webinars.
Take care, guys. Nice connecting. All the best.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.